All right, good evening. Welcome to the Personnel Committee meeting. There is no public comment tonight, so we'll move on to the first item for discussion. Jim Payne will be giving us a review of benefits and benefit premiums for the 26-27 school year.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone again. I know we were here back in January, kind of going through a high-level experience review, talking a little bit about how the healthcare claims and costs have impacted what we're projecting for the next year here in 26-27. So we wanted to provide this group with an update. First, going through some high-level medical and prescription drug claims and trends, let you know how the last couple months have played out, then really get into our actuarial cost increase, and then finally a rate recommendation for the 26-27 plan year. So just to dive in and touch on the district-specific claim experience, presenting some of the similar information that we had last meeting, but really looking at some updated data for 2025-26 plan year. What we're looking at here are the last 5 plan years for the medical and prescription drug claims, rolling down and developing essentially a trend from year to year. Kind of mentioned last time around, you can see coming out of COVID, we saw some lower year-to-year trends. One year was almost flat, 2022-23, 4%. Then we really saw that elevated trend take off in 23-24, 24-25, and year-to-date in 25-26, we have 6 months of data where we're still seeing about a 10.5% trend. Again, just a lot of information here to get into why we're seeing this or what's driving this. Primarily right now, we're seeing some high medical claims, and really this isn't something that's unique necessarily to the district itself. We're seeing this really across the market, as well as on the prescription drug side, the GLP-1 diabetic and anti-obesity medications, which we'll touch on in further depth on the next slide. So really right now, from an update standpoint, what we're seeing at least for these first 6 months of 25-26 plan year, about a 10.5% trend on medical and prescription claims. Next slide then dives into that GLP-1, both again, diabetic and weight loss or anti-obesity medication utilization that we've seen for the district. Again, kind of similar, I'll echo the comment I made previously. This isn't unique necessarily to the district itself. The groups that we're working with currently, a lot of the districts that we're working with across the state who allow for anti-obesity medication are seeing these types of trends. And you can see that over the 4 years here, we're really looking at essentially a development of a fairly notable diabetic trend. Starting back in 22-23, the claim total right in the neighborhood of 200,000. We're projecting through 25-26, that number is going to be close to 560,000, about a 44% increase from the prior year, where obviously the big cost drive is right now are on the anti-obesity medications. Again, really happening across the marketplace right now as new medications are being developed. There's now oral forms coming out that have started to hit the plan as well. What we're seeing at least for 25-26 is the potential for about $1.3 million in claims.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yes.
I think it is the
But, okay. And again, just to reiterate, that top section really looking at the diabetic GLP-1.
Are we sure it's up? Because on our feed. Okay.
Okay. Top section looking at the diabetic GLP-1 utilization, and then that kind of that middle section looking at the anti-obesity medication utilization. So again, really just to reiterate, something we're seeing across the market as more and more of these anti-obesity medications are developed. We're seeing better actual clinical results. We're seeing ease of use. I mentioned earlier that pill form of Wegovy that just came out recently. We're seeing those type of claims in your plan. Again, happening really across the marketplace right now for our groups that are allowing for this type of coverage. Really the two kind of big keys here for any groups that are seeing these type of utilizations. One, make sure you have kind of an aggressive prescription drug contract in place that's able to take advantage of the rebates associated with these claims. These claims are very highly rebatable. The district does have a strong prescription drug plan in which you're seeing anywhere from 40 to almost 55, 60% of these claim dollars coming back in terms of rebates. So it's one kind of silver lining we're seeing The other piece then becomes really just being able to pair some of these individuals who are on these medications with programs that might help them along the way. Both diabetic and weight loss programs are available from both the medical and prescription drug vendors, items that the district really is looking at right now to make sure individuals who are taking these medications really are seeing that good therapeutic result, good clinical result by being on these medications and are managed properly.
So, Mr. Pine, before you go, I know we had an interruption there with the slides, so could you just go for the public for the anti-obesity drugs, Wegovy, Zepbound, et cetera?
Yes,
From 2022 to 2023, it was $86,000.
correct.
And today's, what we're projecting for this year is almost $1.3 million, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, and really, again, the best way to describe this is 2022, 23, really, when we started looking at the data on this chart, you had about 10 to 15 members who are using these medications. Right now, we're seeing about 120 unique members. So it's a combination of a very high-cost medication, it's about $15,000 a year for some of these medications, and frankly, it's much more prevalent than certain high-cost medications because a lot of individuals can qualify for it. So that's really what's driving this cost increase. Again, it's something we're seeing for a lot of our groups currently.
And because we're self-funded, the district, this hits the district 1.3 million.
Yep, the district owes that claim dollar. And again, there's some certain rebates that come back to the district that are associated with it, but the district is outlaying those costs, the 1.3 on the anti-obesity and about the 560,000 on diabetic GLP-1s.
But the oral is much less expensive, right? Like if people.
So it's a good, very good question. So when you look at the direct-to-consumer information out there right now,
Yeah.
you can go out and get the oral versions of some of these drugs for $50 less per month. And if you're looking at Wegovy, for example, I believe the cost right now is about $250 for the oral medication, but it's $300 for the injectable. When it runs through insurance, the prices are exactly the same, and they're about $1,200 a month. Again, what you see in a direct-to-consumer market is a good bit different than how it's being processed through insurance. Again, on the insurance side, you are still seeing kind of a 50% or so rebate associated with it, but there's still kind of what we would call a net cost of $600 to $700 associated with these medications, which again, a good bit higher than what you can get out in the marketplace for those direct-to-consumer programs.
What's the rationale from the insurance perspective to charge the same for oral versus injection?
Sometimes it's because they can, frankly. I don't know
Yeah.
that there's necessarily a rhyme or reason to it. I mean, I can confirm that when you look at this by different types of medication, Zepbound and Wegovy are priced somewhat differently. We expect the new medication that's going to be hitting the market that is even more clinically efficient than those two medications to be priced even higher, possibly later this year or early next year. Yes.
Regarding the rebates, do we have any idea on the figure of those rebates? And
So-
what do we do with that money when it does eventually come back to the district?
So the rebates help essentially kind of pay for the costs of other healthcare services. They help build the reserve back up that pays these costs. So it's all considered part of that total cost. And when I show you kind of what we developed for the rates for next year, we are considering those rebates. We know they've become such a substantial portion of the overall cost, especially in the last 10 years or so, that they are kind of woven in. Unfortunately, each of the PBMs that are out there really won't give us a drug-by-drug rebate. They've given us approximation. So we know for weight loss drugs specifically, anywhere from about 40 to 50% of the total cost. So probably, again, in the neighborhood of $500 to $600 for something like a Wegovy prescription.
It sounds substantial.
It is, yeah.
It'd be nice
And
to
it-
see as a line item
Yep.
when it eventually comes back.
Sure. And I think one other thing I'll note too, again, as you follow stories on this and as you see more and more information come out, Wegovy and Novo Nordisk actually announced that for 2027, they're going to lower their list prices by one half. You probably saw it in the news potentially. So that $1,300 medication per month now goes down to $650. The expectation here is those rebates are going to go away. So you, as a plan that's going through the insurance company, you're paying effectively the same amount, very likely. We're waiting for more information on it. But we don't anticipate that type of reduction is going to impact employer plans.
Are we able to look at a specialty, contracted with a specialty pharmacy just for these specific medications to get them at a lesser cost? Or the employee can go to CVS, Walgreens, wherever, and get this?
Yeah, so this all runs right now, under the plan, it does run all through just the standard pharmacies that you can go get it through. I'll say that if you were to try to go to different vendors, for instance, and carve it out, there's kind of a whole different set of assumptions that need to be made. There's essentially a new contract you'd have to take on. We have seen in different plans say, we're gonna carve this out and exclude it from our prescription plan, but we're gonna work with, say, Noon, for example. They're one kind of reputable vendor in the space that can give us maybe lower pricing, more aggressive management with it. That changes a lot of how it's essentially disseminated to employees who might be able to qualify for it. So there are some changes there, but there are those type of solutions if you want to look at those in the future.
Might be worth exploring.
So we'll continue on then just to really taking all the information we just looked at, roll it together. What we do then is essentially do an actuarial calculation for what we anticipate you would need to budget to cover all costs for medical and prescription drug coverage in 26, 27. Now again, we're taking essentially about 3 years worth of your healthcare claims, trending them forward, applying certain fees, discounts, other different adjustments that need to be made to essentially come up to a number that we think is going to cover your costs for 26, 27. Where this essentially comes out to is a rate increase of about 15.2%. Now, what's causing this again is some of the higher trends we've seen, especially with respect to prescription drug. But also keep in mind, last year in 25, 26, the calculated cost of increase was approximately 24. At that point, the district chose to pass on 18% of it to the employees, to the district, using funds that were in the healthcare reserve, essentially to protect both the district and the employees from paying more on those rates. So what we're showing you here is a true kind of catch-up back to where we anticipate the cost will be in 26, 27. So that 6% shortfall from last year kind of baked in here to that 15.2% rate increase.
And this includes the money that we're getting back,
Includes like the
the
rebates.
500 to
for example.
600,000 that we're getting back.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. So this is our kind of look at the actuarial rate calculation. What I wanted to cover also were some other considerations with respect to what else we would recommend when really looking to set the rates and really suggest a rate for 26, 27. There's a few other items here that we anticipate are going to impact these rates, and frankly, items that can mitigate that 15.2% number I just showed you. The first one right away is actually a benefit design item that's in the collective bargain contract currently. For those of you who might have worked with it or recall, right now the Education Association contract, and I believe all non-contracted employees have essentially a deductible increase that kicks into place for the medical plan, going from the $450 deductible that it's at currently up to $500 starting in 26, 27. So that agreed upon change essentially means that those costs are going to be shifted to the members who are using the plan. So it's less costs for the actual plan itself. The other items I want to note, currently you're at the end of a 3-year deal with Independence Blue Cross. We're going out to market to look at different solutions, different vendors to see if we can leverage costs to help mitigate the cost you're seeing. We anticipate there's 2 or 3 things out here right now that we think are going to bring your total cost down by anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000. Right now there's a medical, what I'll call a medical pharmacy program that can be paired with your medical coverage that essentially uses manufacturer funds to help pay for the cost of very high cost, what are called J-code drugs that are administered in the hospital. The district actually adopted something very similar to this on the prescription drug side for high cost specialty drugs just this past year. That actually is anticipated to save about $75,000 to $80,000 per year. This type of program could save almost twice that. So certainly that's an item here that we saw going through the RFP that we think is worth taking advantage of, benefiting both, again, the employee and the plan at the same time there for lower costs. The other items are just some of the fixed fees associated with the medical coverage. Again, you're typically paying a per employee per month fee when you have self-funded coverage. In a leverage situation like this where we have competitor bids, we anticipate that that will help kind of race to a lower fee for the district. Additionally, we see things like credits come out, whether they're implementation credits, loyalty credits, essentially credits that are allowed to apply to different admin fees that you're going to see assessed. We anticipate that with those two items, there's probably about a chance of 1 to 1.5% cost reduction from that 15.2% we previously showed. Last item we have here really is just some employee communication education that our firm's going to be assisting with. Just initiatives regarding site of care, cost drivers, things that can really help members understand where there might be better cost efficiencies within the plan, things like using independent labs, lower cost providers for things that are shoppable services, just to really arm and equip employees with a little bit more information that might help them be a little bit more consumeristic with the plan, again, benefiting both employees and the plan in that example. So given all this really and these considerations, we're essentially estimating about a 13.75% increase overall. Given that you have two different plans that will be breaking out, because keep in mind that in the Education Association plan being the 500,000 that the non-collectively bargain employees will follow, and then this support group still being on that 450 plan, essentially a 14% increase to those rates, and then the 13.55% increase to the Education Association rates to that new $500 plan. Any questions on the rate recommendation for 26, 27? Okay. I have one last item I'll just finish up with and just hit on the dental renewal. This is the year, this 7/1 is the end of a 2-year renewal that you currently have in place with Delta Dental. Essentially, the carrier came out and we've been able to negotiate a 2-year rate hold for coverage from 7/1/26 through 6/30/28. A couple items just to note here. Over the last year or so, we've heard some feedback from members that certain dentists locally were no longer using Delta Dental. We went out back in 2025 and did a high-level market check and a network analysis to see kind of if those dentists were dropping just Delta Dental or if they were dropping insurance altogether. What we found was that for the entire district's population, looking at the top 100 dentists and providers that were being used, Delta still had the strongest in-network relationship. 81% of their providers were still accepting their plan. We looked at large groups like Guardian, United Concordia, other vendors who had lower in-network utilization amongst dentists that were being seen by the members here. So did that dental check and feel that the district, even though we're seeing some dentists drop coverage for Delta, we're really seeing that happen across the board for all insurers right now. It's just kind of where the market is in the dental coverage side. So really still believe Delta is the best offer here and recommending the 2-year renewal through Delta as of 7/1. Any other questions on that?
Thank you.
That's it for me.
I actually still, I had to think about the GLP thing a little bit more before I asked my question.
Yeah.
So with what we pay, what is, like someone who's on our insurance, what are they paying monthly for it? Like, what's their deductible?
So essentially, the depending on what medication it is, and if I take Wegovy, for example,
Yeah.
That's a brand medication. So when an individual is on the plan, there's certain copays associated with brand prescription drugs, generic prescription drugs, brand non-formulary drugs. I'd have to double check your plan exactly, but I believe it's a copay, I want to say $35 or $40 per month for use of that medication.
Wasn't there also, I think we were at a meeting, that they could go on and get a rebate for like $35, so they end up paying nothing?
There can be some
Because I
circumstances.
think I remember hearing that, right?
Yeah, there's like, some of them have like a $25 rebate, $35 rebate, and they end up not having to
And not
pay
having to
anything out
pay.
of pocket with it.
So that, yeah, a lot of again, the Novo Nordisks, the Eli Lillys of the world are using different kind of coupon programs, again, whether individuals have insurance or not, to help lower their out-of-pocket costs. So again, yeah, even those who do have insurance do have the potential to have those costs mitigated for them to continue on those drugs.
And if someone isn't using insurance at all with the different things that the pharma companies are offering, on average, how much would it cost to just pay out of pocket a month, like $300?
Yeah, typically, so that's something that has changed fairly notably over the last 6 to 12 months, I'll say. If you would ask me a year ago, that number was a lot closer to maybe $600-700 per month.
Okay.
Now it's something that's more in the range, and it depends if you're looking at Wegovy, you're looking at Zepbound, what the dosage is, but it's not uncommon to see $300 a month, $350 per month. And really, I think that a lot of that's due to the pressures of plans dropping coverage for anti-obesity medication and what's happening on a political level too, with these drugs potentially being covered by Medicare in the future.
And that just doesn't translate to the insurance companies.
Unfortunately, it doesn't now. Right now, again, the actual insurance number really hasn't changed. Everything that's happening outside of insurance is to drive utilization. I think when the manufacturer look at it through insurance, they know insurance is tolerating it to this point. They're not changing that piece of it yet. Again, with the exception of the note I made earlier where you see a group maybe cutting that price in half, but very likely doing away with rebates associated with those drugs.
What's the maximum amount we can put in a health care spending account, like a pre-tax for employee?
I believe, like, so if you're looking at for like a flexible spending account, I believe it's an IRS index limit. I think it's about $3,500 a year that the employee can put away.
So that pays for a year of not using insurance and just paying for it out of your pocket. What does it mean, and I'm just asking this because I genuinely don't know, what would it mean for us if we helped fund a flexible spending account? Like if we're like, listen, we're gonna drop this, but if you're taking it, we will add $2,000 to your flexible spending account. It's not as cheap as you're getting it now, but it's better than nothing. But does that not help us, like, tax-wise, budget-wise? Because $2,000 a year times 120 people is infinitely less than 1.2 million.
So if I can just interrupt you, it's 4,400 for one person for an HSA and 8,750 for a family.
Okay. Like, does it
We have to have
hurt
a
us?
high deductible health plan. haven't we,
Yeah,
Jesse?
the HSA has to be paired with a qualified high deductible plan. The flexible spending account was the other item. That's a little bit different. That piece
Okay.
does not have to be paired there.
Well, so a flexible spending account then, like, does that hurt, like, obviously there's money we're spending right now towards these costs under healthcare. And then if we took some of, a fraction of that money and funded some sort of flexible spending account, does it hurt us fiscally? Like, cause the money is now bucketed somewhere else, and I'm assuming we do get some tax breaks for health insurance versus flexible spending accounts, but.
I mean, I can jump in. I know there are some discriminatory practices or discriminatory at least considerations that need to be made, because we've looked at this for a few other groups who've asked similar questions. And I can say for one, when the manufacturers state that, you know, an individual is going out to Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly and purchasing that drug at $350 per month, they're typically representing that they don't have health insurance. So the I guess concern, at least initially there, is that if there is still health insurance or coverage that's going to reimburse them, they're misrepresenting it at the front end there.
Well, I think it would be more that they don't have health insurance that covers it,
Covers it,
right? That they
yeah.
don't have health insurance at all.
That would, yes,
Yeah.
that would reimburse it. But the other piece just becomes essentially setting up how you designate the funds, or the funds that the district will put in just solely for that purpose. There are different ways you can design what's even an HRA, which is completely different from the other two things we talked about, that could reimburse some of that if you designate it specifically. But there are certain, I'll say, non-discrimination items you just need to be concerned with or be aware of when you're setting that plan up, so that doesn't discriminate in favor of more highly compensated employees, because it's one of those items that, because it's under the IRS, they do go through those type of testing.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
I do have another question, thinking about all of this. So I know we had said earlier in the meeting, I believe it was it last year, we dipped into the healthcare reserve to sort of limit the full effect of a rate increase.
Yep.
How much are we keeping in this healthcare reserve? Like, what's our excess currently that we're looking at for this year and for next year?
Currently, the balance in the healthcare reserve is somewhere between $9 and $10 million.
And this is the one where we're supposed to keep 6 months' worth of claims available.
Yeah.
And is that, I guess that's kind of, right, we said here we were at the 8 million mark or something, right?
We're about 18 million in cost.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's about 18 million in cost, and it, like Sean said, it sounds like we're right about 6 months. And
That's,
we know-
yeah, that's what I was looking at, was that 8.7 million.
Yep.
And we're saying, so, okay, so we have
Yeah,
a
and
little bit there.
I think we know, at least for the rest of this year, we're likely going to be draining a little bit more because of the shortfall for this year, which is why I think we're recommending to get back up to close to, if not hit that actuarial number for 26, 27.
Which is,
At roughly 17.7 less the items that I discussed on the other
and
slide.
that's for the full year.
Yes, correct.
So needing to keep that fund balance at 8.5.
And then increasing as costs go up. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Next item for discussion, we have several, 1, 2, 3, 4, job descriptions.
Good evening, everyone. And I want to, before he walks out, I just want to say thank you to Jim and his team. They've been excellent to work with, providing us information, very giving of their time, and all the calls we're making and checking in with them. So I just want to appreciate your time and thank you for the information tonight.
Thank you.
All right, on the agenda tonight, there are a few job descriptions here that have been revised. These are all in the areas of student services. We start off with our board certified behavior analyst. And as I go, do you have any questions on any, each, all? By all means, just,
I don't, I looked at all of them. I don't know if anybody else has any questions on it.
I don't have any other.
we revision the school psychologist job description. And again, these are adjustments that are made based off of the current status of the positions and what the ever-changing landscape here requires. Occupational therapist. And this is where you see MTSS starting to work its way into additional job descriptions outside of those positions that you've approved earlier this year. Certified social worker, K to 12. And that will be all of the job descriptions that are going to be up for approval at the meeting on the 23rd. Are there any questions regarding any of these?
I have a question that comes to mind, but not related directly to any of these
Sure.
job descriptions, but since the OT job description is brought up, I'm wondering, do we employ and do we utilize CODAs and PTAs? I understand that the OT and the PT need to do, I guess, the initial evaluation and set the plan of care, but are we able to utilize CODAs or PTAs?
In these specific programs, that I would have to ask Mr. Johnson, see what we have currently employed and who we're utilizing in some of our programs, because we also have people from the IU that are here as well, because we do contract out for a lot of the services as we can't readily employ all of those positions, so,
Neither can I.
yeah. I can double check with Mr. Johnson,
Yeah,
though, to
just
see who we
Interesting.
work with, yes. All right, then moving on to our HR dashboard. So we are continuing to work on filling positions. We did have a lot of positions filled that were coaching and EDR positions for the spring, as well as transitioning out of our winter sports seasons, and other things like our plays and EDR positions like that. We do have retirements. Our total for the year, we're at 27. I can tell you that retirements upcoming for June, I believe we're at 18 that will be retiring as of June. with one more retiring, I believe, on August the 10th. So there's 19 additional retirements coming as of June into August. And you can see here, we are continuing to have on a monthly basis, we are hiring and onboarding more employees with PESPA. And I believe there are a couple positions we just posted internally today, looking for some employees in the IT department. And then transportation, I believe at this time, Mr. Dahlberg, we are still about 5 drivers. Is it 5 to 8 drivers short
Yes.
in transportation? Is that correct? So we are still trying to advertise. We are talking about doing a job fair in May for transportation, as well as I've been speaking with Mrs. Kraus on some creative ideas on how we could continue to advertise for us in terms of what we can do with our buses and our current fleet. Any questions on our dashboard, where we're at, and positions to this point in the year?
We need to park a bus on Fifth Street there in front of the building that says you could be at work already, right, with the big sign. Yeah.
So we're talking about that. We're talking about a job fair for it. Plus, I just happened to the other day, last week, was driving not too far from here, but school buses in district had on the back of their buses little vinyl in the bottom corner of each of the rear windows that said, "Interested in driving, call." And so each bus was basically advertising as it was out making its run. So something that I just mentioned to Jessica today, and we're going to look into. Right. If there are no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap. The next Personnel Committee meeting is set for Monday, April 13th. All right, next up is facilities, right?
We can go on. What do you think they'll show? Is it sealed bids?
All right, so moving on to the Facilities Committee for tonight. First up, we have the high school, and there's some football equipment that's going to be obsolete, and some nutritional service, public surplus for a pizza oven and mixer. So,
You got it?
much else to say for that. Anybody has any questions? Yeah? I think we're good. That's a short, sweet. Our next Facilities Committee meeting is scheduled for April 13th.
I feel like we should make it longer somehow. Doesn't feel right.
No, we're good.
We're gonna take care of that right now.
Okay.
It's my mom's
Something's
birthday
gonna
today,
happen.
so happy birthday to my
Happy
mom.
birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
They are extended it by 30 seconds. Okay, moving on to Finance Committee.
Any public comment out there?
I didn't even check for that.
Nope.
All right, first up for business is a presentation from the Upper Bucks Technical School for their tentative budget for the 26-27 school year.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us. For the sake of time, I won't go through each and every slide. But certainly, I believe some of you or all of you have looked through the presentation from our February meeting. So for that, again, for the sake of time, we can just go through. This works. Basically, we look at our budget, which we started doing back in October, November, and kudos to our GLC members for helping us formulate this through those months until we got to a point where we were recommending a budget to all the 3 school districts, including Penridge. This budget's very unique, in fact, that you see that it is really not going up in budget to budget. So it's basically going down. The reason it's going down, you probably saw that in other slides, is that we did carve out from feedback from the 3 schools the $235,000 that was in there for debt service. And we took that out and created a separate and distinct capital reserve budget, a 5-year plan. That's also we will review after this. And for some of the new members who may not be aware, of the public, how do we pay for everything at the tech school? Well, it's done to the formula by average daily membership, which again is similar to enrollment, but it's not exact. So if you have one student attend all year long, you get 1 ADM. That student's not there, a day or two, then it becomes 0.99 and so forth. So we take a 5-year average of that, which definitely lays out and calms the water so you don't see a big spike in any given year. So this year, as you can see, for Penridge, your most current year, 24-25, you jumped up to 373. And notice in year 2021, that 293 next year will drop off and it will be replaced again with the 25-26. And as I tell all the schools, if your partnering school districts send less kids, then you have to pay more. And it's the same vice versa if they do and you don't. But you're basically right around 42.3% for the 26-27 year, a little bit of reduction. This just shows we actually used the 3 decimal points, but I rounded it out in the other slide, but just for anyone's reference. And this is how it shakes out as far as what you saw this year compared to the upcoming year. What changed? We did a contract with Questec to cover our technology department. So that switched some costs from our 100 series object codes to the 300s. Again, I mentioned the debt service replacement, band replacement cost, which actually the one for 25-26 was delivered this morning. We're very happy with that. And then we are planning to buy the second one, which will replace 2 2005 vans in our fleet, make it more safe and reliable for our students. And again, we talked about the capital reserve budget. Electricity costs, definitely we're looking at about a $60,000 increase because of the rate structure expired. Liability insurance went up a little bit. We did replace the roof for $1.5 million, and we finalized the multi-purpose room addition. We go to 25-26, just as a recap. So the year we are in right now is $12.8 million as far as expenses. The cost to the districts on a cash basis was 9.4 because the Articles of Agreement mandate that we use any surplus for the upcoming fiscal year. And last year we started with a budget of 12.3, and then it was the support of the JLC in all 3 schools to add some new programs, which we did, and that raised it to the 12.8 million, which is why we used 827,000 of that surplus fund balance to balance the budget. So then we look at the total liability, which includes that, is the 10.2 million, which again, I know is confusing when you look at cash or just the total liability. This just shows the actual invoice we sent out to each school back in June of last year, where you see the total budget of 9.4 on a cash basis, but the credit that we held, I know some tech schools refund you the money and then they bill it. So if we did that mechanism, then we would have sent you that bill for the 10.2 million, and yours would have been the 4.48 million. But we used the credit as the articles dictate, That's why your cash allowance was only to 4.055. The total liability districts, again, was at 10.2. And then for this year, our baseline, how we calculate revenue, we use that 10.2 reduced by the debt service to come up with that 9.994 number you'll see repeatedly in this presentation. Again, we came up with a $12.791 million budget and revenue from all sources, including that. 9.994 is the 12.754.573, which left a gap of 37,000, which we are going to use the fund balance to balance that. And again, the proposed budget from the December 18th meeting we had at the JLC level was using 272,076, which again was reduced to 235. We had a finance committee meeting on February 5th, and that's where we went over a lot of these issues and items, and that's where we directed the 235,000 be removed out and create a separate capital reserve fund, which we did. And they also directed that a refund of $322,820 from the 23-24 excess be presented as a refund to all three schools. At the regularly scheduled February 19th meeting, the JLC did approve the proposed budget that you see this evening, and they also approved the refund of the $322,820 from the 23-24 excess. And there's the calculation for Penn Ridge would be a little over $139,000. And then this would be the sample invoice that we would send out just to show you for illustration purposes only to the schools this June if this would pass. Now these graphs just again go over the cash to cash, the liability to liability, so I won't belabor you with that. Illustration purposes only. Again, we went over about how the costs were derived for the districts. This shows, I know it's hard to see on the screen, but this shows our actually line-by-line revenue line items, which again, the lion's share come from the three schools, as you can see. And as you can see, the debt service payments dropping off for next year. Again, we do get some vocational ed subsidy, which again, if the state budget comes through, we would certainly count on that money, and we do get some other subsidies for retirement, Social Security, and a little over $152,000 for Perkins. This shows our expenditures by the major object code. 100 is salaries. And as you can see from my mention earlier about the Quest Tech taking over our IT department, that's why salaries are lower. Benefits the same way. That's why professional services are increased. Our property services also with the addition of Quest Tech. Our insurance went up to $17,200. We have supply, software, and mainly that's also, it doesn't say it in the first column, but energy's in there too. That's in object code 620. So that's why that one has gone up, which I mentioned earlier. We did decrease the equipment line item for only the one van we're going to purchase in July if this would pass. Mentioned the debt service going away. And then we have the principals and transfers. Again, we took the 235 out and leaving the 2766. We kept budgetary reserve the same. And that derives overall the 12.791, actual decrease of a little over 14,000. So here's the bottom line for this is pretty much what I'm sure everyone wants to see. It's just the bottom line. Hey, what are we paying? So I put the actual cash number in the first column. We have the addition of capital reserve monies that are used by the same ADM formula. And then if we factor in the refund, there's your bottom line, which would be the 132,820. Some important facts impacting our budget, which impacts yours the same way, starting with the PSERS rate for the upcoming year. For our health care, we're looking at about 7%. We had to, again, do this back in October, November, so we had like a first look. And that will not be finalized until later this year. But even if it was over 7, we have a reserve as well that we could use to cap that. And again, I mentioned the Perkins funding subsidy already. We talked about the van replacement. And then there's the total contributions from the sending school districts using the $37,000 to balance the budget at the $10,031 million. Fund balance, we're allowed to keep the 8%, which is a little over $957,000. The 23 surplus we mentioned already, and then the $270,000 that was allocated to balance the 24-25 budget was not needed. So we will have that money available as well. And then assigned for 25-26, which again, I mentioned that 12.3 budget going to 12.8 this year that we're in today, comes in at 2.3 million as far as just looking at a snapshot of the fund balance. Again, I mentioned it before, the articles dictate how we use it, and we're using the 37,076. And then once the 24-25 audit book is given to the JLC, they will review that and refund or reallocate the balance of the surplus not being used to balance the budget. And that, basically, I took the exact language from the articles for the, again, new board members, or a refresher for some veteran board members and for the public's reference. And then we have some co-op stats that, if you'd indulge us, we would like to go through rather quickly, and I'll ask Mrs. Walker, Dr. Air to chime in. These are some of our vendors.
Hi, I'm Lisa Walk. I'm one of the school board coordinators at Upper Bucks County Tech School, for those of you that don't know me. I just wanted to give you a little insight as to your return on investment for the students that are coming to the tech school, so that you kind of can see where our students are thriving. So last year, we had 130 students that were placed, and you can see what the students were making in a handful of the technical programs. And last year, they made, during school time, just over $800,000. That's just a breakdown of what percentages of the tech programs that the students are out working in co-op. And then last year, we had 104 employers that were working with us. This year, so far, we have 103 employers. That's the breakdown of how many hours that the students worked and the average wage. This year, so far, the average wage is $15.51. Last year, 85% of our students were offered full-time positions with their co-op employers.
By living, learning, working locally, we're making a big impact. We're working very closely with Pennsylvania to show that from interest to impact that we have on our community. We've partnered with EMS, so we're really giving back to the community. We thank our JOC members who serve 2 boards. We appreciate it, and we appreciate Penn Ridge being staunch advocates for career-connected learning. I'm glad to be part of this community.
Okay. So we'll just go through here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the next steps. So if our proposed budget is approved by a majority of 3 school districts, it will be filed with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And then we would plan to release that refund on or after July 2026. That leads us to the last slide. Any questions?
I have one. Do you have a breakdown of what the cost is per student over the last couple of years? Have you seen an increase in the cost per student over the last 3, 4, 5 years?
It's borderline around $12,800 to $13,000. I mean, we don't use that because we don't.
But has that been steady the last couple of years? Has it gone up?
It's been steady.
We've been very fiscally conservative. I think the difference is we've been doing a lot with being very strategic with our monies. Comparing a neighboring CTC center, we're about 30 students away from $25 million less budget.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Sure.
First of all, I love what you showed out there about the co-op. I think you guys do great things over there. We have great students. But I did want to know, because I know like as a district here, we have to look at our budget and how we can reduce cost, how we can eliminate cost. Did you guys talk about what you've done? Because I see to how to eliminate, because I see that you're asking for 172,000 plus an extra 99,000. So I'm looking, for example, the refund, if you will, is 139. Like, it would be nice if like we could have gotten that, instead of asking for 99, that would have been included in the 139. So what are you guys doing to reduce cost? And, you know, I know here, for example, if somebody leaves a position, we look at it internally, the administration looks at it internally and say, do we need that position? Or if someone leaves, can we collapse it? Like, do you have that to show the districts? Because we're in a squeeze, right? And I just, like, I don't know if you showed it at your meeting. Are there those numbers that we can see that, okay, you guys are also doing the same thing?
I mean, I will say this, when I got there, actually 2 years ago, February 24, Stacy Gober was there before me, and the budget at the time was 11.9 million. And between her efforts and JOC, they kept the next budget at 11.9. Like, there was a lot slashed then to keep everything low for all the 3 schools. And really what we look at in the fall, what teachers want, and they're very passionate and fiscally responsible for their programs. So I won't call it bare bones, but it's pretty much close. Like, they don't ask for anything over and above. And then what we did here from fall through today is just, or again, just a show going on as is. I mean, I think we do anytime our position's vacant, we do look at, but what options we have. We recently had a student services secretary.
Coordinator, great, we become a farm team, she's landed at Penn Ridge, but that position, salary and benefits went to 50,000 as we work with the PIMS group and PIMS people right now to,
Yeah, and that doesn't mean, we're still gonna post it, see what we get in, hopefully, and that's a GLC decision to fill that, or to continue with the contracted service, but that's an example of what we look at. Every time there's a vacancy, what can we do different? What can we do to save money?
Could you share that? I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think it'd be nice, or I would, to see the numbers that are attached to that, because I know for us, we want to see numbers that are attached to that. And I get it. I think everyone's looking at the reduction of budget. That's just unfortunately the reality of where we're in. So I think it would be nice, if you don't have it already, is to see what it is. Like, I know we have it, Sean does it, which is like, this is what we're looking at, and this is the cost. This is the number that's beside it. That was really my question.
Okay? Yeah, good.
And just curious about the choice to subcontract out the IT services.
Yes.
Is that a cost savings, a cost increase?
Oh, actually, cost savings of 40,000, another example of what we looked at to save 3 districts some money. If there's no other questions on this portion, we did that the capital reserve budget, which I think you saw, but just to briefly look at it, if there's any questions on that. I don't know if is it on here, sir? Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. So again, this year, with the help of SiteLogic, again, when I got there 2 years ago, our JLC was very adamant in wanting to know what's coming up for capital items, repairs, major expenses, so that no one, including the 3 schools, are surprised. So SiteLogic developed this LTFM, which again, I just took those numbers out of that dashboard and put them here for being more user-friendly. So right now, we have about over 176,000 in our capital reserve fund. The reason for that is there was like 85,000 left from the roof project that we were lucky that we didn't have to spend, and then just interest over that time period of about 5,000-6,000 a month. So when you look at the projects coming up, the majority of them are grant funded. If that comes through, if it wouldn't come through, they wouldn't be spent. But we do have a dental vacuum system that we've been trying to troubleshoot and develop a engineering solution for. Deals with, again, you can't have kids learning how to do dental work without a vacuum. So we're definitely trying to get that situated. We have a temporary measure in there now. And of course, we have issues with our alarm system as well that we're planning to address. And the other ones are basically grant funded. And if they wouldn't come through, we wouldn't do those. And then the other ones are just showing you, again, what's on the horizon for years to come. Probably the parking lot is the biggest one that we're looking at. There's just been some deterioration over time. This winter, I'm sure, was another one that took its toll on it. So again, that's for all of your reference, so that no one is surprised in this year or the years to come of what is on the horizon. Doesn't include things that we don't know about today. So like a few months ago, we didn't know that our one of the boilers was having trouble. Now we do, and troubleshooting that as well. But again, this was some feedback we got from the 3 schools. We developed this separate, distinct capital reserve budget for your review and consideration.
Question. Now, again, these are, what's highlighted is what you would want to get done in 26, 27. Is that accurate?
Correct. So there was the PS FIG grant that we're applying for, and those are the items that would be included. There is the Bourne grant is separate from the PS FIG. So I believe we have favorable funding coming, but we didn't see the money yet, so we're pretty much 99% sure that money's coming to do some upgrades on the barn. But the other ones are all the PSFIG.
So all these things are things that you've looked at and need to be done in 2027?
Yeah, when site, again, credit to JLC for bringing SiteLogic in to do this long-term facility plan, and they walk through the building time and time again, identify things. And on the actual long-term facility plan, it's gonna be so dynamic where you can click on it, you can see pictures of things. So it's a little more than, this is just giving you numbers, but long-term facility plan is definitely here for informational, so everybody can see what it is. And then you can attach quotes to it, things like that. Any other questions on capital reserve?
Just gonna echo what Carolyn said, like, we're all being squeezed pretty hard, so any places that you can find something that could wait or last a little longer would help.
We took that consideration for the parking lot. And we also signed a contract with the community college to get some revenue in. So we're always looking also to increase revenue, which is to your point.
Was there a generator that was already replaced a year or two ago, or is this
Not to my knowledge, this has been lingering.
the same, this is the same conversation? Because I see emergency generator, which I'd assume they're all emergency generators, but that one was never replaced then?
So the issue with it was, I believe, that the gas valve that fed the generator was undersized, and then they asked for the generator to be replaced. SiteLogic had asked us to have the generator replaced, and I asked them for a load bank study and to go through and do to like break it down where everything was coming from. I think that they did everything to break it down and find where life safety and emergency equipment was coming from versus where general power was coming from off the generator. It's still, I believe the gas line's still undersized, and the generator's 25 years old. It's approaching end of life. So it's one of those things that's gonna need to be done at some point. It just, it's just luck of the draw. I mean, that thing could die, and we know the power up there can get finicky, so because it's a life safety generator, I think it's more of a necessity than a critical powers issue. And just while I have my mic on, I think I'm in the same boat with Carolyn and Leah. Is just I think that we really need to take a look at what we can cost cut up there. I mean, I know that we can't. Obviously, we can't cut programs. I mean, if you consolidate a program, you lose it. If you cut a teacher, you lose it. I don't know what the thought is to. I believe Ms. Walk's going to be stepping into Mr. Cullen's position at some point. I believe is that what the discussion was? I don't remember what we had finally determined with.
We're down to one administrator, we're on
Right.
the state doing great things out the state, and we're going to be filling that position with thought intention very soon.
Right, because I think if there's a way that we can consolidate that, I mean, there's a cost savings there just for us to alleviate some of the burden on the sending schools, because we're all cutting, and we're going to see our budget tonight, and it's a tough pull for our tax base to swallow, for our stakeholders to swallow. And I think it's a great thing if we're being able to reinvest this money into the school so these kids can get out into the public and be able to work, but it's not an immediate fix for us to be able to fix the tax base now. And I just do want to look at that as anywhere we can save money to help with the sending districts. It's going to be a big help.
We're sharpening our pencils, we understand that 90% of our budget is local, working closely with the state, both Secretary Rowe and Governor Shapiro, and prioritize that. We're hoping to get more state funding. Our Perkins funding, $155,000 is not that much, right, in our budget, so we understand the burden and the tough choices that you're making, and for those that on the JLC, believe us, we're trying to keep those costs down. We don't have a lot of administrative assistants, we do a lot for a little, at one point we had a 4 administrator when I started in 2012, and we got down to, for a couple of years, 1 we're very conscious of those figures.
Is there any overlapping between like the sending schools and the tech school that academically or, like I know we talked about quite a few students at the tech school are on IEPs and doing really well, like can we discuss how to share those sort of resources better between sending schools and the tech school, like as far as like how we're assigning staff? I know it's not double, like I know we don't be like, oh, it's one person here and one person there completely, but depending on where a student needs more help, like if they're struggling less with the stuff they're doing at the tech school and having a harder time
We have about 40%
Here.
of our students have IEPs.
Right, yeah, yeah.
EL. We have staff, and we work very closely with the sending school district, so it's not a duplication of effort.
Okay.
We also work closely with the intermediate unit. A lot of those special ed money will come to the districts and the IU, so we maximize that. We just had the IU out for professional development and training to capture that. So there's been some discussion about having an additional counselor and special ed, but we're pretty equivalent with the local school districts. Of course, if you ask staff, everyone could always say you need an extra person, but
Yeah.
we're doing the best we can.
So I guess before you leave, I just want to know if you would be able to, because I guess we're going to have to vote on this, if you'd be able to send us, I would like to see, because I know you said like 2012, like that's a while ago, like in this year, the numbers of what it is that you're saving. How it is that you're really looking at your budget. I think I would need to see that before I would be able to actually vote.
Agreed.
Put that together.
Yes.
I would just jump in and touch on your point about your state funding. The district is 26, 27 basic ed adequacy and special ed funding increase. We're looking at about $223,000 total, and your increase in our cost is $271,000. So let me put it into perspective. Your single line item in your budget increase and your capital increase and your expenditures is more than what we're gonna get from the state in funding. So that's why we're asking the questions, and we're looking at everything very, very carefully.
Absolutely, yes, we are. We appreciate that.
That's what we're getting for all of our students.
Yes.
How much
Yeah,
was that?
we'll go through that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else for them? No? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, before we get into the meat and bones of this, I guess we'll go through, we have some contracts
There's some contracts
to
tonight.
review.
Would you like me to walk through them?
Yeah, I think that would be,
Okay, all right.
please.
Good night, thank you all. Thank you.
Good night.
So we're going to start off with letters A through E. These are all Learn Well contracts for students who are placed in medical facilities, and their educational costs are $61.55 per hour, provided by the Learn Well staff. Letter F is the Bucks County Intermediate Unit Special Education Services Agreement for 26-27. Estimated cost of that agreement is just over $5 million. We were about 4.4 million this year. And those are our special education services that we purchased from the IU. Letter G is Leader Services. This is our annual cost for our IEP writer system. This is the renewal subscription and the web module renewal. Runs from May through June of each year. The cost for this year is $28,811. It's up slightly from the $28,212 last year.
Our staff is happy with that IEP writer program?
Yes. Yep. Next contract is H, Lehigh University. This is for the junior prom in April of 2027. We make a $3,300 payment for the facility charge and a $4,000 deposit for the services. And then the remaining amounts are charged after the event. And last year, the junior prom cost approximately $19,200 in total. Letter I is Fuge. This is for the senior prom, May 21st of 2027. These costs are done on a per student basis, so $75 per student, and then $49 per chaperone. And we'll have to also make a $1,000 deposit there. Last year, our total cost was just over $37,000 for the senior prom, and that was held at the Arts Quest.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, they're trying out the Fuge next year rather than Steel Stacks. So we will see how it goes. It's closer and cheaper, but we will see.
I don't know, it seems quite impressive by the, like, we didn't have all this fanfare at proms back in the day, I guess.
This is- yeah, I
We didn't have all the
don't think
technology,
it
like,
costs this much.
I don't know. I wanna-
It is for a lot more people.
True, yeah. I'll chaperone, it sounds fun.
Okay, letter J, we have
I have
first
a neighbor
class.
that might like that.
Letter J, we have first class entertainment. This is DJ for the junior prom in April of 2026. The cost is $3,000. Moving on to letter K, Toasty Toasty, fundraising program for South and North Middle Schools for next year. And we did get feedback that Central is still contemplating whether they're going to do this or do something different. That's why this is just, at this point, for the two middle schools, the South and North. Moving on, letter I, Harleysville party rental, rental for chairs for the high school graduation. This year, cost is $1,335, which is down considerably from last year, which was $1,900.
Is it down because of price or down because of the amount of chairs that are?
Price. M, Scholastic Book Fairs. This is a book fair for North Middle School, which will run in April. Again, this is parent paid. Then moving on, PSBA Insurance. This is a renewal for our management and related services for the unemployment compensation claims for school district employees. It's $4.50 per employee, which is the same as the current year. And basically, this contract manages any unemployment compensation claims that we were represented by the company. If there are any claims that go in front of hearing officers and so forth. We just had one of those about 2 months ago, where we had a hearing that lasted maybe an hour and a half. And that claim came out successful for the school district. So it's a service that is, these are specialized services, and it's good to have those people on our corner. Letter O, Aqualink. This is treatment of the high school pond. Cost is $2,595. And this treats algae? Or
Yes,
Algae.
this is for the high school.
And the last contract we have is Johnson Controls. These are our HVAC controls. For the annual renewal for district buildings for July through June, 26 to 27. The cost here is $193,000, and last year it was $188,000.
Just for next year, we have that, with all that, just a one-page cost on it. I'm just curious, like, how to broke it down, like, so you can kind of, for the,
Like a table.
yeah. Like, each one's an individual contract.
Each one's an individual
Dollar
contract.
value.
Yeah.
Just that way you can look at all of them,
So,
without having to scroll through.
like a summary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do a table.
Yeah,
Have
but
that
maybe-
summary.
Convenient.
And then more for curiosity, because I know Johnson kind of has you. They want to pay. I'm just curious to see what it is.
What, which one?
Just all,
All of
just
them.
all
No,
of them.
if anyone stuck out. Was there any one that's like more than the others?
It didn't start that.
I brought it down to that. It was high, it was higher than that. I brought it down.
I mean, like, is there one of the contracts in here that's really driving that, or does it seem to kind of spread pretty evenly across?
Well, naturally, the high school
Yeah.
is one of our more costly locations. It had gone up last year because we added a building. We previously didn't have Daibler on the contract services,
Okay.
and then Daibler was added to it, so that there was a little bit more of an average increase from the year before to last year. This year, they had given me their initial price for what the increase was going to be. Negotiations took place, it went down to what we're looking at right now, which is 2 to 3% higher than the previous year.
That's it for contracts.
Any questions? All right, move on to Ms. Kraus for transportation budget.
She's already
She's
stayed
not
like she
geared up and
left.
ready to go. Like, let's keep going.
Smart.
Early mornings come fast, so I'm
She
ready.
comes to work at 5 a.m., so
Yeah, let's get you down here.
she's on fumes right now.
Yeah.
All right, just a little bit about what we do in transportation as we transport students to and from school, which is the obvious. We also transport non-public students and special needs students. We transport homeless and foster students between our districts and neighboring districts. We provide transportation for work-study programs for special ed students that go out in the middle of the day for those programs. Early education programs that we're responsible for through the intermediate unit. We transport late bus routes for regular ed, special ed students, and of course our athletics and our field trips. We do shuttle for graduation. We have a multi-district special needs, Special Olympics coming up in May that we'll be providing some shuttling for there. And we do summer school routes for our students for enrichment and things like that. Transportation operations that go on over there. We have our vehicle maintenance and repair. We have our garage with 4 mechanics there. We also do have a co-op student from the tech school working with us at this time. We do training for CDLs and the endorsements to properly have the credentials to drive the school buses. We do ongoing CDL training requirements every 4 years. Routing and dispatching of all the school buses, special needs training and equipment over there at for the vehicles, and state report and data collection. Those are just some of the things that we do over there at Transportation Committee.
Snow removal?
Oh, yes, snow removal.
know how
There's
we
many
forgot
items
that.
I'll forget, but there's a lot of things that go on over at the Transportation Department. All right, this particular piece of our budget has not changed too much this year. We've got staff training and development. We have our aides that do CPR training, physicals, which are every year, and then our random drug and alcohol testings that are done. Any questions on this slide here? Vehicle operations, we have contracted services through Lakeside. That is a contract that the district has, and they do provide the transportation. And then we have the Bucks County Intermediate Unit service charges. The intermediate unit assists us with a lot of our special needs students that we're unable to transport here at the district with our staffing shortages. Last school year, we had approximately 36 students that drove that cost. We did start out this year with approximately 13 students over there, which was down greatly because we were able to bring some bus routes back. That has gone up a little bit, depending on some of our special ed students, their needs have changed and require them to go back to the intermediate unit. And then that number will fluctuate up and down with some of our McKinney-Vento students that need transportation right away. So the way that we budget this is we look at what are we being billed for right now currently, which was for last year's services. So we're about a year behind on budget. We believe that that budget line will come down. We just don't know what that
question about the IU. So if we hire all of the open driver positions, does that mean that this account 516 goes away completely, or there would still be some students that would require transportation outsourced to the IU?
So the number that we have in the HR dashboard is the number of drivers that we need to bring back all of these students, which would bring this line item down to zero.
Let's get some drivers.
I will tell you, and I'll kind of echo on what Jess said, this one's very difficult for us to budget because it's a year behind.
Yeah.
And we will get our 26, 27 numbers, cost numbers from the IU in October. So our budget will be done before we know what our 26, 27 costs will be. I've reached out to my colleague at the intermediate unit and asked for some type of estimate of where we'll be at the end of this fiscal year, so we can have some idea of how to adjust that number for our 26, 27 budget. Because basically what, Jess has said, we went from 36 kids to 13. And some of those 13 kids are some of our higher cost kids because they're going outside of the district to placements with severe need kids with a bus, a driver, and an aide. And those costs are substantial. But so we're trying to, what I'm saying is we were trying to make, to get some ideas of what we can actually change this number to before we get to October. Not asking them for an exact number, but just some idea of where we're going to be, so we can make. Because I think this is a number that we can have, we can get some savings out of. But I just don't know how much, and I would rather be safe than sorry.
How well have we been anticipating that in the years past, knowing that we're kind of this year behind?
Well, our cost for 25, 26 will be about 1.2 million, and we have just short of 1.1 million budgeted. But again, yeah, we're always a year behind, so we can get pretty close, but with the rising costs and so forth, it's hard to estimate.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Jess.
The majority of our items here stayed fairly well the same. Our insurances did increase a little bit. That is the motor vehicle insurance. Towing has gone down a little bit. Any questions about anything on this slide? Here we have our gasoline and our diesel fuel. This goes out, we go out with a multi-district bid through the IU. We do watch that very closely. We typically end up blocking in around the May, June area where it drops most significantly. I am a little nervous about this number with where fuel is right now, but given the way it's been going year over year, I do feel comfortable reducing the diesel fuel a little bit. I did prepare this budget before it rose, but I do believe it'll probably go down. I think that we're going to be fine with this budgeted number for our upcoming fuel expenses. New bus purchases. So last year we did not get any new full-size buses. We got one special ed bus. We were on a plan of 10 buses per year. That was when we were up at about 95 routes. We've got about 72 routes, so it would be approximately 7 vehicles per year right now. Our smaller vehicles, though, are pretty well in age limits. So we're asking for the purchase of 4 full-size buses for this school year. The cost here is about $150,000 per bus that we put into the budget. I just got some word back today from Sourcewell. So typically, we've year over year gone out to bid for our school buses, and we come back with whatever those numbers are. And it's typically been around about the 150 range. Sourcewell is very similar to CoStar, and Penridge does have an account through Sourcewell, so we can purchase our buses through Sourcewell. And I believe that we can bring this net number down a little bit at about approximately 135-ish for full-size bus. We can probably bring that down a little bit for those 4. Any questions on the buses? Just so you know, we did look at some different options for bus purchases outside of new. We looked at the possible purchase of used buses, and those were around the age of 2023s with approximately 12 to 45,000 miles on them, and they were between $95 and $101,000 for one of those buses. So it does make sense to get, you know, the brand new bus for $135. And we also did look into the cost of leasing. We got an approximate cost of between $1,750 and $2,100 per month for a lease. And then that would come along with an allowance of 10,000 miles per year. And our shortest bus route for a full-size bus goes 11,766 miles per year. It would be $1 per mile over the 10,000 miles. So it didn't look real promising there. I did a little bit of math on what it would cost to lease. So the cost for 4 buses over one bus per year, 5 buses for the 4 years would be about $420,000 for the low and $504,000 for the large. And then that, of course, is the returning the buses, so we don't actually own them. And then the cost for the mileage overages, if we just go on the 4 lowest annual mileage buses, we're looking at $52,585 for the overage in the mileage.
And what's the life expectancy of the bus?
We run our buses 10 years on the routes. Some of them are a little bit older than the 10 years on the routes, but we keep our buses around 16 to 17 years, but we do have some that are 19 that are still running strong. So we've had buses up over 20 years old before. We've had them running over, we think we got just one that was just over 300,000 miles. Yeah. So we use those buses for the life of them. Once they are rotated out of the daily fleet, they go into a spare fleet, and they're used to service our field trips and our athletic trips that are over run times, and of course spare buses for when our regular front-running buses are in for service and things like that.
I'm sorry, what did you say was the per mile charge if we went over?
$1 per mile.
That's crazy.
Is that negotiable?
With the gas pedal.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked at that number myself. So last year's budget was just under about 2.8 million, and this year is up to 3.4, almost 3.5, with a 20% increase, where most of that driver is because of the lack of bus purchase last year, where we have requested those bus purchases this year, as well as the cost of the IU services, which we're hoping to get in. Some inventory of our fleet that we currently have. And here you'll see our school buses and how many we have in our fleet and the ages of them. So you'll see we have 24 buses in our fleet that are between 15 and 19 years old. So we maximize the use of those vehicles. We are looking to replace 4. 5 buses will be exiting of our fleet. We will be replacing 4 of them only. And you'll see there the mileages are, we've got one there at 260,000, almost 261,000 miles. And that is the end of my presentation. If there's any questions.
I just had a couple more questions around the leasing option. Are there restrictions around that? Sorry, Colin. that, like, could we still do maintenance on them? Like, what are,
Yeah, so that would
rules
be
around
with
it.
our mechanics doing the maintenance.
okay, okay. We're allowed to, like, they wouldn't say, like, your money has to go to a certain person.
No, they would be
Okay.
serviced here.
Well, you said if we leased, what was the math? You did the math.
4 years.
Yeah, so it was anywhere between, right? So she gave me a ballpark
Yeah.
figure. These aren't set in stone. If you wanted to, I could certainly get something more concrete. Averaging between $1,750 per month and $2,100 per month. And it is a typical 5-year leasing contract
Per bus.
per bus.
Plus the dollar
Yeah.
mile over.
Right.
I think didn't you say it came up to $500,000 or something?
If we did all 4 for 5.
Yeah, so for the 4 buses over the 5 years,
That's-
with the mileage on the 4 shortest routes, would be $557,160
It makes no sense that-
for the
It makes
5
no
years.
sense to have that as an option.
Right.
Well, all 4, but what if we did, like,
Yeah, and I
you
did,
know, like,
Then we return them, so.
Yeah, that's like,
well,
you're
is
putting all
there
that
an
money
option
out.
to buy them?
Yeah.
I did ask her about the buyback.
Yeah.
She does not currently have any leases that have a buyback option at this time, but she told me that she would look into that. We communicate with all of our other transportation directors in Bucks and Montgomery County, and I did put out an email last week to all of them to ask them if they lease, why they lease, if they do, what are the, the pros and the cons, and if they purchase, and no one leases.
There's probably a reason.
There's a reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, the sole purpose was just to be like, can we delay some, like,
Right.
can we keep some money
If there's
immediately back in the budget?
if there's like a buyout option, it might make
Right.
sense to agree at a buyout option now on a price versus, in 5 years when the prices are
Right.
going up.
It doesn't
But,
sound like
yeah.
they offer.
If no one leases, there's a reason.
It works that way.
But it makes sense to look for us to get that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially with Kias.
I know.
It doesn't, but it clearly
How
does.
many-
All right.
How many districts in the county have their own independent bus, like our transportation bus? Like we own our own transportation. We know how many.
I don't know how many in the county, but I know like in the surrounding area, CB has their own transportation, and they have a combination, and they're, through attrition, they were going out, and now through attrition, they're coming back in-house. North Penn did the same thing,
Is there-
and they are now going through attrition, bringing back in-house.
If there isn't any way for like the consortium to purchase, if we're all gonna be in the same position, we're all buying buses.
So,
There's-
yeah, so there's Sourcewell, and so it's basically,
Right.
the contracted prices. So that's what I plan to use this year, rather than going out to bid, because we pay money to go out to bid as
Right.
well. And so now we offer, Sourcewell, so we can use that. And that's where I got that, quote for $135,000 for a brand new bus.
And I don't remember from last year, discussion was some of these buses that are getting up there in age, they were like a certain year that was having issues.
Yeah,
So does this still include those?
we do still have
Vehicles?
some X-Force engines, correct?
So that they've made it through this year, but there's no guarantee.
If I believed that we would be put into a position that we would not have the buses to get through, I would be asking for more than 4.
Got it.
I am confident that we will be okay. And, going forward, we will just continue to replace, but I think that we'll be fine.
I just think it highlights that we did put it off, but definitely start making sure that we're getting those buses.
Yeah, we delayed buying buses last
Right,
year
yeah.
too, yeah.
We bought, one, I think, is what
Why
we
was
agreed
there-
upon. I think the ask
Why
was,
was there delay in purchasing buses
Yeah.
in the previous years?
We can't keep doing it.
So we had,
Budget.
we had some budget cuts with COVID, so we did cut our budget down for a couple of years in a row. Additionally, we used to have 95 bus routes, right? And so now we're down to 72. So over those last few years of budget cuts, we've been able to exit buses out of our fleet without having to replace them. We still with 4 will have a few that are over the age of 10, so we're not getting that PDE reimbursement for those few buses. But those buses are well-running buses. We have great mechanics that service our buses. I have been in this industry for, I'm not gonna tell you how long, Be too old, but it's over 20 years. And I have to say that I've been at a lot of different districts and contractors, and those vehicles I've never seen the vehicles maintained the way that they are in Penridge. We rarely have breakdowns. I mean, they're great running buses. So I have full confidence that we'll be okay. We will need to continue our replacement plan going forward, maybe up a little bit. But I am looking through all of the vehicles and trying to right-size that fleet, because we were heavy with the reduction in routes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying. I just want to thank you and your team. I mean, I think you guys, just knowing you for the last 2 years, and you guys do an amazing job keeping this fleet from the kids.
Chris, for the new board members, Mr. Ken Gilbert, he's the lead mechanic. We've been looking at him, and he's been answering questions, and that's why, because he knows it all inside.
Remember him from last year.
Did he go- Okay.
I get
He's also out there driving the streets before snow days.
Yeah, he also, checks snow roads at 3 a.m.
Last year, he was going out on a road service call, so he didn't get a lot of it here.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Ryan, you're good. Carolyn, you're good? All right. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Jess.
My notes, I don't know where we are. Operations, thank you. Mr. Dalbert. Oh,
We'll do operations.
yeah. Operations, here we go.
Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. All right, starting us off, we have non-routine budget requests. So non-routine budget, just for those of you that don't know, are items that we get requests from the building for things that they are in need of. So if it's some carpets and furniture, whiteboards, items like that, it all comes out of this area. So the left side, the orange side, is the estimated request. So that is the total of everything that I got requested to purchase through the non-routine budget. And then the green side is what I whittled it down to. So you'll see that out of all the total requests, it was almost $600,000 worth of items requested, and I got it down to $210,000.
How did you do that?
That's awesome.
Right, I'm looking at it, right, I'm.
So we base it off of what is deemed necessary, what is
Okay.
practical. Not to say that all, requests are impractical, but we got to look at what is absolutely needed from safety and security points of views. Certain items will take preference, like cameras, card swipes, items of that nature, whiteboards. If someone is asking for something that is just viewed as a little on the superfluous side, that would be what would fall off.
So like West Rock Hill was the highest, and it went down to
2,500.
the almost lowest. So, like
What were
what?
they asking?
Yeah, what was that?
It's huge.
So West Rock Hill.
It was
$91,000.
So that was a culmination of projector requests. They were looking for a projector system that with all the items in that package that could have possibly been included, it
Okay.
totaled up to $94,000. And that was also with everything else. Taking out what wasn't needed and giving them what is needed from all the things that are prioritized. I believe the thing I planned on moving forward with them was camera. They needed security cameras. So giving them the security cameras they requested and ruling it, we've talked about other alternatives instead of the projector system.
I'm back.
So just this slide here, just highlighting images of things that would be captured within the non-routine budget. So like we said, there's furniture, there's desks, security desks, the whiteboard top tables. These are all different things. Bottle fill stations, digital radios, whiteboards for classrooms. We have our security cameras, the exterior and interior. We have, you'll see the image all the way to the right. There are the card swipe systems. So these are all things that would be achieved through the non-routine So just to give you a quick breakdown, the way I divide this up, the two columns to the left in blue are the past 2 years and their actuals. The middle gray is the current year. The yellow line is what is being requested out of the next fiscal year. And then all the way to the right in the orange is the variance. So the area to point out is the $61,950. That is the increase for general property and liability insurance. That is the item on this slide.
Is that due to exposures that we have?
That's the estimated cost for our package for general liability and property.
Is that going up because of, I guess, maybe not exposure?
It's going up
or
because of property values are going up and claim costs throughout the entire country. The biggest driver is...
Well, we've not, I guess my question is, have we seen an increase in our claim?
No.
Okay.
No. It's the reinsurance market that's really
Not an
driving.
us problem, it's a them problem.
There you go. But that becomes an our problem.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll see some areas throughout the presentation, and I'll make sure I point them out, but anywhere that I made a cut with the help of Sean and Dan, we were able to identify some areas that maybe money that was being carried over that hadn't been spent some time, so we tried to remove anything that was viewed as unneeded, or it had been just carried over for the sake of being carried over. We tried to get it out of there, just to.
And what was travel?
So that was an account that, when I looked into it, it was money that was being carried over, that if we were sending anyone out to training, it was money that was available to cover travel cost. It was never being used, so.
Do we shop around for the liability insurance
Yes.
every year?
Yes.
That's the lowest, right?
Right now it is. Yep. That's our first, we get three budget projections. That's our first budget projection. But yes, our broker will shop our insurance each year.
Okay.
So on this slide, this highlights our energy usage from 2009 up through last year. I go that far back just because in 2009, it was before we had implemented a energy savings plan that was, we got through Airmark. Once it was instituted, you'll see that from 2010 on, everything is fairly consistent and level. Some things have gone down and varied, like you'll see there was a variance in 2020 and 2021 coinciding with COVID. Since then, everything has leveled off. So ever since that plan has been implemented, everything has been performance-wise pretty uniform. So again, on this slide, this is where a bulk of my budget resides. Areas of particular highlight being the natural gas and electricity costs. They are going up. So natural gas is going up $36,000, and we'll see with electricity it is going up $134,776.
Can you jump back a slide to your chart? You see the red lines? That's electricity from 2022 to 2023, 2024, and 2025. We've decreased our electricity use in the district, but electricity costs are going up because electricity rates are going up because of the demand on the system, the overall demand on our electricity grid. And a lot of that is coming from the increased demand from the data centers and so forth. So we are impacted by that. Everyone is impacted by those systems coming online and using up the electricity. Thank you.
And then my next slide, I was going to also add to some other reasons for the cost increase or tariffs and rising cost of energy demand. Some things that contributed to their energy demand can be things like old equipment and peak load days. So just coming out of the since we're at the tail end of our winter season, we know the stretch of days that we have with the low temps, those are things that can really do some consumption of energy as far as the fuel oil. When we have the long periods of very low temps, it will dissipate that fuel oil really quick, so that can drive up costs there. Just like during the summer, when we have the high heat days, it can put extra load on the system. So things that we can do to try to combat that. During the summer, we will do things where we will power down sections of the buildings and try to run at the bare minimum, just to try to combat the load that it can put on the energy system. So this spreadsheet here goes into our roster of grounds equipment. You'll see lines that I have highlighted. Working with my grounds guys, we come up with a list of things we do to planning for replacement and keeping equipment current. So you'll see the 2 lines in yellow are tractors that we will be planning to update with new ones. The green line is the zero turn that we would be planning to update with a new one, and the items that are highlighted in blue are units that we would plan to trade in for that effort. And it's important that we try to keep up with it, because prime example, the snow removal season we just went through, keeping up with that equipment is what keeps us successful in those efforts. Just like diversifying our equipment, where the models used to be hitting equipment that did everything. Now people are trying to make sure they have grass cutting equipment for grass cutting, snow removal equipment for snow removal, not mixed use. These are images of some things that we would be pursuing. So you'll see in the top left, we have our zero turn that we usually see our guys riding around on, taking care of the grounds. The top right is a picture of the vent track. That is the equipment that we utilize for snow removal and walkable square footage. So when you see our facility managers riding around, they are riding around on the vent tracks, doing the sidewalks and the walkable square footage areas. The snow brush is the big fluffy blue brush in the top middle. We use those on our sidewalks. Those are particularly handy because they will allow us to use less salt. By using those brushes, we can clear off the walkways and not have to just do what the old people used to do and just dump salt and keep it moving. We can brush off walkways and get a cleaner walkway by utilizing those. The buckets are both handy for snow removal and our grounds work during the warmer seasons. And then we have a picture of a plow there because we have a plow that has been worked on and repaired and welded. And it's been nursed back to health too many times, so we will be looking to get it. So this is the ground section of the budget. Again, the 2 blue columns are past 2 years. Gray is this year. Yellow is what we are projecting for the next fiscal year, and we are carrying over the same spending plan that we have had, so no increase. This is the roster of our trucks. Everything is in pretty great condition. We have 1 vehicle that you'll see there. It was marked for planning on being replaced. We decided to hold onto it as an extra truck. In the off chance that we ever have a truck go down for a breakdown, or if during snow removal we have an issue with a truck, we utilize that as a backup. So instead of trading it in, we kept it for the off chance that it can save us. And then the vehicle with the red X's next to it, that is actually the truck that is used for moving the marching band equipment around for those activities. We also keep that extra truck so we don't have to utilize that truck for snow removal efforts, just to keep it in good integrity. This is our vehicle operations and maintenance portion of the budget. The only real item here of importance that you'll see is the $20,000 variance. That is being worked into the budget because, I'll skip to my next slide here. We have a truck here. This is one of our grounds vehicles. You'll see the dump bed. You can see through it. So that $20,000 that I worked into the budget is in the off chance that this does not pass inspection. With the help of the gentleman, Ken, that we pointed out, We are going to remove those squares and weld in replacement squares to try to avoid having to use that $20,000. But in the off chance that it does not pass inspection, despite that, it's there to make sure that we have money to keep this vehicle street. So my budget in summary, we are proposing a increase of 7%, a total of $288,547. And again, that increase is due to the rising energy cost, rising insurance costs, and marginal increase in our service contracts. That is it.
What year is that tilt bed?
I'm sorry?
What year, that's the 2015, that's 2015? What year is that tilt bed that you showed us with all the holes in it?
Oh, I'm sorry. What year? The truck
Yeah.
Let me go back to my roster.
I was trying to find it in the roster.
2025.
So that is Shane Fazy. That is 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, that is Shane. He's the grounds guy over at Central.
Next, we could look at slide 16. How are we compared, we're a little bit more than halfway through the year. Our budget for this current year that we're in was 4.1 million. Where do we stand current for that?
On this one?
Yeah.
So this budget, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, this is one of the budgets that has been impacted severely this year by weather, supplies, and employee costs. So this is one of the total budget areas that I have some concerns about, and have worked into my calculations of being, my projections I'll show you later. So, yep, this is one that gets hit really hard by weather, both by snowfall or ice and by cold temperatures, and we've had both. And when the snow comes on the weekends, it's really great for getting school back open, but it's very costly.
And a lot of our snow bills this year fell on Sundays.
They sure have.
So maybe going back to, well, none of oh, wait.
Thank you.
Brian,
You can see that you're working really hard to stay within the budget that we've had, so I really appreciate it. Because I like when the numbers stay the
try our
same.
best.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, I'm sure Sean can tell you, when I come to him about something that we need to spend money on, I've really gone over it with my guys and tried to see what can we do internally versus what absolutely has to be done by someone else. And my guys are great. We will find a way to do it internally. And if we do have to have someone else do it, we've really we've really analyzed over if we had to do it. We do a lot internally. Like I can't say enough about the crew here at the school.
Yeah. And my only other question is, like, because our, obviously insurance just keeps going up. Are we obligated to carry like full collision and everything, even on the very old like cars and trucks? I mean, from a liability perspective, are we obligated to carry full insurance? Full collision, like I would have dropped collision on half of these by this point. But never mind.
Yeah, we do carry full coverage on all of them.
Okay.
It's something that I can certainly look at and talk to our broker about if it comes to a point where it's no longer beneficial for us.
And you would certainly know more than I would have. Like, the cars I drop collision on are not as expensive to begin with, so if it's still worth it for us to carry it, I don't want us to put it as an issue.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along.
Mr. Trauger, I think
Yes.
we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Sounds good to me.
Mr. Thomas, we're going to take a 5-minute break, please.
All right, welcome back. We will continue with our Finance Committee meeting for the general fund review with Mr. Dahlberg.
Thank you, thank you. Tonight, we'll take a first look at our numbers from the 26-27 budget. Things we want to go through tonight, look at history of the revenues and expenditures, take a look at the Act 1 index and tax rate impact allowed, 26-27 revenue and expenditure budget information that we've put together so far, a fund balance review, and then work together to define a path forward for the 26-27 budget. Looking at the history of the revenues to expenditures, 1920 through 23-24, the district ran surpluses, budgeted expenditures to revenue, and transferred funds to capital projects. 24-25 year, still listed as estimated because we don't have the final audit back yet. We have a deficit of about 3.3 million, and then 25-26, we are looking at a deficit of about 2.5 million. What makes up that deficit of 2.5 million? Revenue, budget about 163 million, projecting to have about $1.4 million short in the revenue side. Real estate taxes, about 225,000 short of budget. Earned income tax, about 380,000 short of budget. And the big one, interest earnings, about $800,000 short of budget, and that's due to the decreasing interest rate environment that we're in. On the expense side, we ran two different projections on expenditures. The one has a variance of about $400,000, and the other one has a variance of about 1.1 million. To be conservative, we used the variance of 1.1 million. And there's two areas that mostly drive the concern and expenses. The one we just talked about during Craig's meeting, as the operations budget has been impacted severely this year due to the cold weather and utility costs, and also the cost of employees having to come in over weekends and clear a number of different snow events. And the other area that I have concern about in the budget this year is our special education budget. I believe that, well, we know we added an AS3 program after the budget was passed. That will cause us a variance there. And then there's some other placements and so forth for students that have been added that weren't planned for. So I think that those are the two budget areas that I'm most concerned about on the expense side, and those three on the revenue side is where I have my most concerns. I'm hoping that the real estate tax revenue comes around and picks up between now and the end of the year, but I'm trying to be as conservative as possible in this projection. Moving forward, the Act 1 index for 26-27. As you know, the index this year is 3.5%. That would allow for just shy of 5 mils additional taxes. The Act 1 index, the full index value would generate about $3.2 million in additional revenue, and it would cost the median assessed property about $156 in additional taxes. Moving on, now looking at the revenues and expenditures for the 26-27 proposed budget. This is our first run. I'm actually projecting or proposing budget on the revenue side that is less than the current year budget. We currently have a budget of about $163.1 million. It's 26-27 revenue budget. At this point is about $162.5 million, or about 0.35% down from the current budget. The expenditure side, $163 million budget currently, and right now our numbers are about $169.5 million in expenditures. or just shy of a 4% increase. Overall, that creates a deficit of about $7 million when you take the total revenues against the total expenditure. Last year, we ended with about a 2.5% expenditure growth, and right now we're about 3.94. So we have some work to do. Looking at revenues, local revenues, about 119 million, make up about 73%, 73.5% of our total revenue budget. State revenues of just shy of $41 million make up about 25%, and the remainder, small amount of federal revenue, just over $2 million. For more detail on the revenue side, real estate taxes, we have about 0.4% of growth in the assessed value of real estate, which would generate about $321,000 more. Interest earnings, we're budgeting a decrease from 3.3 million to 2.4, or a $900,000 loss there. Pass-through funds from the intermediate unit for IDA dropped about $95,000. And then I have a $139,000 increase in revenue in miscellaneous, and that is the reimbursement from the tech school that was talked about earlier tonight. Overall, local revenues showing a decrease in the budget of just over $500,000, and really that's driven by the loss in interest earned. I look at where we're at in this, I look at where we're at in this column. Currently, assessed value of 670 million at the current millage rate of 140 mils. Total gross taxes, real estate taxes, about $89.8 million. Right now, we're at a collection rate of 96.5, which is lower than it has been historically. These are full year numbers. These are through February, so we have a little bit to go yet. But last year at this time, at the end of February, we were at 97.03, so we're about 0.5% higher than we are right now in the current year. So that has me worried a bit, and that's why in my projection, I showed the real estate revenue being down or off a little bit. The total taxes collected at this point about $86.7 million, and moving forward into 26-27, that would generate about $87.7 million with that 0.4% increase in the assessed values, going from 670 million to 673.5 million dollars. We're generally at a collection rate of 97.6, 97.4, but right now we are running, like I said, about 96.5. We budget annually at 97.25, hoping that that gives us enough of a buffer. We'll see how the rest of this year plays out.
Do we know why we're below that? Or how could we make that up?
It will be made up eventually over time. So because real estate taxes, real estate tax bills don't go away. They're either paid during discount, face, penalty, or when they go delinquent. So the money will come in eventually, but the current year collections are just running behind where they were previous year. Question is, when do they come in? Does it come in yet this fiscal year, or does it go into delinquencies and come in fiscal years down the road?
But how, are we able to put pressure on somehow to get that collection rate up for the current year?
The collection, or the pressure right now is coming from the Tax Claims Bureau, because any bills that have not been paid are now with the Tax Claim Bureau, and those folks are receiving notices from the Tax Claim Bureau that their property taxes are due.
So I have another question too, and it actually goes back to the tech school budget, and I know they're not here, but the first thing I noticed was that they have a revenue increase for them. And I was like, well, we're getting a revenue decrease. So is that just because they are asking for it, or do they have other revenue streams outside of the sending schools that somehow they're getting more money?
The way I understand that the funding of their budget works is that whatever funding doesn't come from other sources comes back to the school district. That's why even though their budget has a very small increase,
Yeah.
Enridge's increase is $172,000 for next year, plus then another $100,000 for the capital projects.
Yeah, they had like a $600,000 increase in their revenue, and I just was kind of curious why they're going in one direction where it seems like all the school districts are going down.
The lion's share of their revenue comes from the school districts.
Yeah. But do they have, what are their other revenue streams? And I know you're not on the tech school, but like, what are there other revenue streams that aren't from the sending schools?
They would have some state vocational funding.
Okay.
We talked about Perkins Grant, which
Yeah.
is grant for equipment for technical schools. They would have reimbursements from Social Security and retirement like we do. They would have some interest earning. I'm really kind of spitballing.
Okay, yeah, I know. But it seems like, so their state funding is
They
doing
would have some
better
state
than ours.
vocational funding, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Real estate tax collection or calculations, so just showing you that at our current numbers, what the additional revenue generated would be at 1.5%, 2%, 2.5%, 3.5%, and 3.5%. It just gives you an idea of how much money is generated and also what that impact is on the median assessed property. State funding, moving on to state funding, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the tech school folks. We are expecting about $95,000 more in basic ed, about $89,000 more in adequacy funding, and about $38,000 more in special ed. It's about 0.7% change in basic ed, about 11% in adequacy, and about 0.94% in special ed. In total, about $223,000 or a 1.2% increase in funding from the state. Last year, we got $25,000 from the state with 0.13%. So you can kind of see where, I mean, I don't know how to put it other than the state is really not helping us much. The effort there, the lion's share of the money is going to the districts that qualify for large amounts of adequacy funding. We qualify for a very small amount. Ours breaks down to about $89,000 a year. All in all, adequacy totals are about $6 billion statewide. Our total, what we should have got by our adequacy if they would have funded the entire thing up front was $2.7 million. We're getting in very small pieces. Through 26, 27, we'll be funded at about $270,000. So with local funding drying up and really very little funding coming from the state, it's kind of creating a perfect storm for districts, not only Henridge, but other districts in the state like us that don't qualify for the adequacy funding and are getting very little money from the state.
What is adequacy funding and why don't we qualify?
So adequacy funding, we actually do qualify for a very tiny amount each year. Adequacy funding came as a result of the state Supreme Court case where a number of school districts in the state sued Pennsylvania government over funding, saying that school districts weren't being adequately funded to provide an education. Most of those school districts were districts in lower economic areas. There are districts that are getting multiple millions of dollars a year in adequacy funding. There are districts that get nothing in adequacy funding. So before, whenever the increase in funding, whatever it might be, $250 million or $300 million in basic ed, all ran through basic ed funding formula, and everybody got money based on how the district was, came out through that, the numbers came through the formula. With the adequacy, basically, we're starting to pit districts against one another because some districts are being funded, some districts are not. And at the same time, they limit districts' ability to raise real estate taxes to fund themselves. So districts are getting very little state funding and then also being held to Act 1 indexes and not being able to fund themselves.
Thank you.
State revenues, the $132,000 increase in the basic ed is in there. Actually, in special ed funding, budget to budget will be a reduction. We had budgeted higher than what we ended up getting in the final budget that came out in November when we did our budget last spring. Transportation is down a little bit. And also then you see the Ready to Learn block grant money increase, the mental health and security grant money increase based on what was in there this year. And then the state's share of Social Security and retirement are based on those costs and reimbursements.
So our special education funding is going down, even though our special education kids that we have is going up.
Yes. Property tax relief is another large state line item. It's over $4 million now, but every dollar here given to the districts by the state has to go back to the taxpayers, real estate taxpayers through the homestead farmstead exemption. So this year, our tax bills are reduced by approximately $340 to give back to taxpayers this entire $4.1 million. And over the last 3 years, that number has grown from $253 in 23-24 to $301 in 24-25, and then to $340 this current year. Federal revenue budget, same as we.
Can I just ask one
Yeah.
question around the special education? So when it comes to the students that we're sharing with the tech school, all that money comes to us and then we give that to the tech school, or does the tech school also get state funding for special education? Okay.
I do remember them saying something about IDEA pass-through.
They may get some of that through the IU. Our IDA pass-through comes through the IU, and I believe all school entities are eligible for that. But basic or special education funding, I'm not sure that. You know, see a line item for it.
So that would be from us then, that's what, we get it and then
Well,
it's part of like the budget we share, therefore.
yeah, there wouldn't be necessarily a carve-out of our special education revenue to give to them. Our special education revenue is a part of our total
Yeah.
revenue pie, but in our expenditure pie, we give them what we owe them for tuition. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yes, it does, thank you.
What is the funding for special education based on? And is the decrease in funding statewide?
The, we don't
Sorry.
necessarily have a decrease in funding year to year. Well, we have about a $38,000 increase from current year estimated funding for 25-26 to what the governor put in his budget for 26-27. It's driven by the special education funding formula, which is state put in place, and it's based on your special education population and various other factors about your school district. And how many kids you have in special education and what tier of special education they're in, meaning what level of service they are required to receive. And that is tracked through cost of their program. So each year, we have to report to the state the cost of each special education student of their program into categories.
Okay.
There's 3 different categories, and it's based on cost. And the most severe students, of course, are in the most expensive category. So that part is driven into that formula and other factors that district wealth and so forth. It's kind of like the basic ed funding formula. District wealth has a part of that. Your student population has a part of that. The wealth of your community and so forth.
And you would think with the population of students in special education going up, that the funding number would increase as well.
The funding, both at the state and federal level for special education, has not kept up for years with the cost of the programs. Special education it is being left to be paid for at the local level, the vast majority.
Thank you.
One other thing, just because of what Leah had asked, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it now. We send our students up to the tech school. There are students who have their IEPs, but we still pay for all of them just under the ADM. There's not a specific rate for students who qualify as special needs.
No.
Right, it's
Correct.
all just based ADM.
Their
so-
entire budget cost is allocated to the school district based on ADM. It's not based on, there's no weighting of the ADM for the students' needs.
Right.
And then what we pay charter schools for special needs is not tiered, right? Is it just a flat rate regardless?
Correct. The only tiering with charter school payments is that we pay a different rate for special education brick and mortar kids versus special education cyber kids. There is a higher rate for the brick and mortar. And that came out of the changes in the budget, in the state budget this year in November, where we had to go back and change the special education charter school rates. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And no matter, and I'll get to the root of your question is, what you're asking is do we pay a different rate based on the severity of the student's needs?
Right.
And the answer to your question is no, it's the same rate, and regardless of the needs of the special education student in a charter school.
Right.
So a student who has 30 minutes of speech per week, they're getting the same amount of money as a student they might have, say if the student was in autistic support 3, right? Same amount of money.
But they're
Does that
allowed,
answer your?
yeah, but they're allowed to deny admittance to students, correct? They aren't obligated like a public school is to educate everyone.
Better way to reframe it. They're not obligated.
They're not obligated to educate everyone.
Don't put Sean on the spot.
Sorry, I didn't mean like that, but I just meant it like,
But it's why
Well, I
so
feel
many
like-
kids suddenly have IEPs that go to church.
right, but I also feel as if, like, I feel like there's a concern, and, you know, this even goes to like people who vouch for the voucher system, that like, the most severe students will remain in public schools because other institutions don't have to take them. You know, and so I just want to make sure that, like, I feel like the money is falling behind what's actually happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The money is falling behind at the state and federal level for what's happening. The school districts. Unless you're the lucky group that's getting the adequacy. State revenue summary, total state revenue down about $40,000. We look at this, federal revenue, we're budgeting the same, we'll get our allocations later and can make adjustments. But these programs are dollar for dollar, we recognize the dollar when we spend the dollar, and we have about a 15-month period to spend those dollars so they can cross fiscal years. Moving on to expenditures, look at it first from an object level. So Salary and benefits, up about 2.4 million, or about 3.3%. I'm sorry, salary, and then benefits, 1.4 million, about 3%. Purchase services, up about just under 4%, about 469,000. That's driven mostly by our professional substitute line item that's there, and then IU services. 400 line item is pretty close to being budget neutral. 500 series up about 1.1 million. There we're driven by tuition for the tech school, charter schools, and non-public schools. Any tuition for any student placed outside of the district is what's driving that number. Plus then our general property and liability insurance is also within the 500 series. So those are the things that are driving that number. 600 supplies, 438,000. There we're being driven by our program improvement. We have a couple of different items in that budget that's for books and supplies for programs. And then we're also being driven by electricity and natural gas costs in that 600 line item. The 700 line item equipment, those are the buses that is driving that line item that Jessica talked about.
I'm sorry, which line item was that?
The 700.
700.
Yep. And then the 800 and 900 line item, really our interest and our principal payments. And as the interest drops, the principal goes and replaces that interest drop. So those two line items kind of work in tangent with one another. So overall, at this point, about a $6.4 million increase in expenditures. We're, like I said, just shy of the 4%. A breakdown of the benefit line item, really this one driven by the medical insurance at a 1.2 million increase and 300,000 increase in the prescription. As Mr. Pine talked about today, these numbers are built off of the 15% that we've been talking about for the last few months. He has now brought his estimates down a little bit into that 13.75 to 14% range. So every percent we drop off of there is about $100,000 savings. So in our next run of the personnel budget that we do, we will implement Jim's final recommendations for rates, and we'll see a little bit of a decrease in cost there. Object summaries, again, about 76% of the entire budget is in salaries and benefits. So the two big categories. Looking at it from a program standpoint, the 1000 series is your instructional series. About 42% of the increase cost is in the instructional series. 1,100 of regular ed programs, about $1 million. Special ed programs, about 1.4. Again, that's where we see our costs being driven in the special ed programs. Moving on to support services here, this makes up about $3 million of the increase, and each area really up because of salaries and benefits. And then we have the transportation line item up because of the salaries and benefits, and then the buses and the insurance. There's a piece of the insurance that hits transportation as well as it hits the 2600 line. And then student activities, about $438,000. And then the debt and the transfers, here about $146,000. Overall, the $6.4 million increase, $163 million to 169.5. Expenditures are driven, majority go to the instructional line item, 61%, and then the instructional support, about 30%. So what's new in this budget? We've expanded the full-day kindergarten to implement that program for all kindergarten students across the district instead of just one classroom in each building this year. We are implementing the MTSS program, the implementation of the state-mandated cursive writing program. We had to add costs for that.
Thought I missed that.
You missed it?
Yeah, what is it?
You're,
I'm not on
about it.
social media anymore.
How much is that adding?
I believe it's 12, 10 to 12. 10, yeah, 10 to
Where is it?
12,000, what we had to add for the cursive writing program.
What? To buy workbooks?
Yes. Workbooks and resources.
Where did this come from?
It's,
Sorry to laugh at
I mean, I
it.
think it's great.
I believe we have recurring costs.
I'm like, I agree.
The recurring replacement of those books will be somewhere, I think it was around $2,500 to $3,000 a year.
it's now a state mandate. It's now an unfunded state mandate.
We budgeted for inkwells and fountain pens as well.
Yeah. Twin feathers?
I like that.
Collaborative classrooms, grade 3 to 5. Updated mystery science packs for grades 3 to 5. That's a lot of the program improvement money. New AP comparative government textbooks, again, program improvement money. And then the continued increase in the EDR pay.
Do you have the breakdown of what each of these bullet points added into that budget?
I do in my notes, but not handy.
Okay. Fine.
Savings implemented, we had total of 10 teacher retirements. We had 2 teacher retirements in February. We had 7 at their teacher retirement deadline. And we received 1 teacher retirement within the last month. That person will leave in August. We have 2 teacher resignations for the end of the year, 2 support staff retirements. 9 teaching positions are replaced with a new hire salary in the current budget. 3 teacher positions were not replaced within the current budget. 2 support staff positions replaced with a new hire salary. Total savings here of $1.5 million. We also have a total savings from our school and department budget review of $1.4 million. So we cut just over $3 million from the budget in this presentation. Summary, we started at $172.6 million. We achieved that $3 million in savings, which was listed on the previous slide. Current budget total is $169.5 million. Total revenue is $162.5, which gives us that $7 million deficit. We are allowed $3.2 million of an Act 1 tax increase, and if that was put in place, then the budget deficit would remain at $3.8 million. So looking at options moving forward.
Can I
Yeah.
stop for 1 second on the summary? So without the $3 million in savings that you just spoke about, the budget deficit would have been 10 million?
Yes.
We still have a lot to come up with.
All right, so just for you as board members to have some things to start to think about over the next couple months as we as an administration continue to work tirelessly at trying to come up with further cuts and expenditures. You can start to think of these things and kind of put the total budget in your mind in these examples. So what we're trying to do is show you here, green means it's a revenue, red means it's an expenditure, and blue means it's fund balance. So these are ways to get to a net zero by using different variations of those 3 things that we just mentioned. If there was a 1.5% tax increase, that would generate $1.3 million in revenue. It would be $66 to the median assessed value, or about $5.57 per month. And if we then went to the expenditure line items and we reduced our capital transfer from $6,144,000 to $3 million. We would reduce that expenditure total by $3,144,000. Then if we went to our fund balance, which will be estimated about $10.4 million at the end of the current fiscal year, we used $2.4 million of that balance. We would take that $7 million to zero. Option two, if we did a 2% increase, we would generate about $1.8 million in revenue, about $89 at the median assessed value, about $7.43 per month impact. Same thing with capital transfer, reduced expenditures by $3 million, and we would have to use about $2 million of fund balance.
And that's taking that 10.4, reducing it by 2, so leaving 8 still in the fund balance.
Correct.
And this is the fund balance, we're allowed to keep up to 8%?
Yes. Option three, 2.5%. Revenue increase is about just shy of $2.3 million. The expenditure reduction of $3.1 million, and the use of fund balance of about $1.5 million. Option four, 3% tax increase generates about $2.7 million, about $133 on the median assessed value, monthly impact about $11.15. Capital transfer, same, reduction of about $3.1 million, and the use of fund balance would be about $1.1 million. So the numbers in green are permanent numbers. The numbers in red are permanent numbers. The numbers in blue are one-time use. Any questions on those?
You're in option 5.
What's that?
Option 5.
3.5%.
Oh, sorry. I meant like actually up there visually for like the taxpayer, like look at the breakdown,
I,
other than everything else in the,
yeah, I do not have an option five. I have four.
I mean, sometimes I just think it's easier to digest that to look at that and say.
If we did the full increase.
So when does our debt service drop off, or next drop off?
27, 28. Debt service remains the same for 26, 27 as it is this year. Total debt service, 27, 28 drops off a little bit. 28, 29 it drops off a little bit more. 29, 30 it's gone.
That's the 6 million.
Okay?
And so all of those take capital fund balance from next year's, all that money out. But we can still fund, we're not gonna be cutting ourselves short for repairs and stuff.
This would reduce our transfer to capital projects by $3.1 million, which would reduce the amount of money available in that capital projects fund by that amount of
I
money.
don't remember what was
That
our-
wasn't the question. The question that Mr. Kaufman asked was, if we reduce it to 3.1
Yeah.
or 4 million, are we covered this upcoming summer? Is that how I
Well,
understand
no,
it?
for next year.
For the
Because
following?
we already did for
Yes.
this year.
Right. but-
Yeah, we are
Right.
covered for this year. Correct.
And we'll be, why don't we go to the next slide with the fund balance,
Yeah.
please? So we can see to help you with the questionnaire. So,
The fiscal year 2025 estimate for fund balance, unassigned fund balance, about 10 million. Total general fund balance, about 13.4. Capital projects has about $7 million in it at the end of 2025. We have a transfer coming in this year. And then we have about almost $6 million of projects to do in this, that are lined up for the summer 2026.
So if we go back to the scenarios, the options, say we just, take option two. So we'd have to use 2 million of the fund balance, and then the following year, we'd have to use 2 million again, or would some of that debt services, like, how are we going to stop using the fund balance every year?
So, whichever option, if there is one of these options that's chosen, whatever amount of fund balance that's used, the next year's budget begins with that deficit.
Right.
So how do you get out of that cycle is either have enough revenue and then next year to make it up, or enough reductions in expenditures to make it up. So those are the two ways to do that.
So is there one of these that aligns better with what we're gonna start getting back in our budget as the debt services drop? Like, I know you said it goes down 27, 28. Does it go down 2.024 million?
I think it drops about, I think it's between 1 and 2 million. But we'll pull all those numbers together for you in our next budget presentation so that we have it.
Going back to, I'm sorry, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Sorry.
Yep, you're good, you're good.
I thought you were, I just
Yeah,
didn't overtalk there. Going back to where we are for this year, I think you said we're already in a $2.5 million deficit. So is that 2.5 million included in these numbers for next year? Or are we, like, what are we doing now?
That 2.5 million is included in that $10 million
Mhm.
fund balance.
So it's already taken out of the fund
Already.
balance?
Already estimated and accounted.
And what are we doing now for the remainder of the school year to make sure that we are scrutinizing every expense that we have? I mean, that's a huge deficit that we're dealing with now, as well as trying to plan for the future. And I think back to Ron's point a couple of months ago with projecting the financial state over the next, 3 years into the future, sort of looking, I think that helps to answer kind of what you were alluding to. Like, what are we doing from an admin level to really look at the current checkbook? And we're already $2.5 million in the negative. How are we controlling that for the remainder of this year while trying to manage for next year?
We have,
Like, staffing is our biggest expense. And
a month ago, we've asked all department heads and department leaders to stop spending unless it's an absolute emergency.
But who, so when we say that, right, what are the control stops that are put in place? Who's determining, yes, that is an emergency, right? Everyone's going to say, this is an emergency, I'm out of paper clips.
Okay. So the purchase ordering system works in this way. The purchase order gets entered at the building and it gets approved by the principal, and it comes to me for final approval. What we've added is that if they believe that it's an emergency and they need something, they need to have their principal supervisor's approval before it can even come to my level.
And are we doing the same thing with looking at payroll? It's a huge expense. Right now, I understand that we have a large majority of salaries that are salaried versus hourly. But are we looking at those hourly folks to make sure that there isn't any unauthorized overtime, that people aren't milking the clock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we're looking at everything. So I can say without a doubt that
And I want to speak to questions you're raising, and they're good. This isn't our final deficit number right here. This is a projection right
the
now.
next slide.
Some other things for consideration. Why don't you roll with that, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, okay. All right, so outstanding considerations. We are looking at staffing. We have at least 6 positions that we are looking at potentially not replacing, in addition to the 3 we already talked about. Medical and RX rates.
So if I can just interrupt you, just to clarify, so when we say not replacing in the sense of like, Ms. Sharino's a math teacher, we're looking internally at various certifications. We're taking a look at different departments where there could be some, I don't want to say extra teachers, but we're trying to take a look at class size, and if we have to reassign a teacher to a different building, we would replace in that sense. So through attrition, rather than when someone retires, resigns, we do a posting, we bring a brand-new person in to replace. We are looking internally because, as you pointed out, our biggest driver is personnel. Depending on what you read or what you study here, it could be between 70 to 75%. So for every dollar of revenue that we get, about 72 cents is going towards salary and benefits. So we will be taking a very, very close look at all positions and to see how we can better leverage our resources and our human capital. Secondly, we take a look at, we had a presentation earlier tonight by Jim Pine, and you saw the explosion in our pharmaceutical rates, in particular the weight loss drugs, and Wegovy is the big one here that's really driving costs. So we need to start taking a look at, in the future when we have different collective bargaining agreements, these are negotiated benefits, and we're locked in right now. And so in the future, when contracts expire, this would be something that I would imagine we would, as an administration, take a look at with our bargaining units to see what we can do to mitigate some of these rising costs. Want to take it from here, Mr. Dahlberg?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yep.
Property and general liability insurance, we have our first estimate in this budget. We hope that will come down. Our whole entire package is out by our broker for bid. We're hoping to see some lower costs there. We have still remaining 2.2 lakeside counselors in this budget at a cost of $211,000. We put school bus funding for school buses back into the budget. Total cost there about $600,000. We can reduce that a little bit based on the numbers we heard tonight from Jessica regarding her estimates. We are looking at the athletic budget and what those requests were within that budget and what is needed for safety. Our biggest concern is making sure that the kids have the equipment that is safe, and we will prioritize that within the athletic budget, and then we will make decisions from there. This one hasn't become more true in the last few years than within the last week. World events, impact on electricity, natural gas, gasoline, diesel, and heating oil costs. We've seen gas prices spike within the last 9 days, since the war or the events in the Middle East have occurred. So we will be watching that. It may drive us to buy our products for next year at a later time than we would normally. But we will be watching the markets and buying through the intermediate unit consortium at the best possible time. What we talked about tonight, technical school budget, the increases within our budget from that tech school budget, and the request for capital funding from the districts, an additional $100,000 cost to us. The debt service drop-off money, the $6.1 million transfer to capital projects, that is in play. On the revenue side, we have placed within this budget the governor's request. They're very small increases. We are waiting for the March assessed value report from the county to see where those numbers come in, to see if we have any additional growth that we can put into the budget. And we are continuing to monitor the collection percentages for both real estate and EIT. And we will continue to do that through the rest of the fiscal year. questions? So we will be going back and we will be working on those things that we just talked about. Some other things that we identified tonight, like a couple items in the transportation budget. And we have a running list of things that we are working on. And we're not counting them until we have them solid, so.
Anybody? Good. Exciting part of the year.
What's that?
So the most exciting part of the year. Right? All right, if that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Next, Finance Committee